We are the living graves of murdered beasts, slaughtered to satisfy our appetites. We never pause to wonder at our feasts if animals, like men, can possibly have rights. This is the beginning of the poem Living Graves by George Bernard Shaw. I mentioned a quote in the episode that I had seen on a hoodie. That quote was a play on this poem. If I remember correctly now, the quote was, "I will not be a living grave of murdered beasts." Read the full poem in the show notes. Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 144 of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. I'm Kimberly, your host, and I am super excited to be here with you today. Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast for all things vegan. Before we get started, I have one very important question for you. Did you bring the hummus? Today, I am joined by Steve Fenster, the founder and president of NJveg. He holds degrees in biology, business administration, and computer science from Rutgers University, and has worked in his previous life as a systems engineer. Steve has been vegan for 16 years and was vegetarian for 7 years before that. He is a lifelong New Jersey resident and has lived in the northern, central, and currently southern portions of the state. I have to say I appreciate that Steve calls out that there's a central New Jersey because there are people who claim there isn't, and there is. I know I too once lived there. By the way, I also love that this episode and the one released last week feature fellow New Jerseyans. Shout out to this beautiful state that we live in and we love. NJveg is an all-volunteer nonprofit dedicated to educating the public on the benefits of a plant-based life while providing support, volunteer opportunities, and social events throughout New Jersey. By the way, culinary schools, listen up, step up and offer a vegan practice meal like Steve talks about in this episode. NJveg and all of its supporters are ready to attend. Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Good evening. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you are here. It's been on my mind to get you on the podcast, and I finally asked when I joined your group, NJveg, at the volunteer day at Goats of Anarchy, which isn't too far from my home, actually so much closer than I thought. And
Cool.
I moved like a year and a half ago, and where I lived before was like 7 minutes away and had no idea this whole time how close that they were. But it was such a great experience. And, you know, having met you at Farm Days at Ethos Farm back in 2024, I think.
Or was it 2 years ago?
I think it was 2024. Yeah. With our booths set right next to each other.
Yes.
Yeah. The conversations that I got to, that I could overhear sometimes you guys having with the people that came up to your booth and just the energy that you both brought that day. I just love being in the vegan bubble and being right next to you guys felt so much like being in this wonderful little vegan bubble.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. So here we are. And I would love to start by hearing about your vegan journey.
Sure. I guess it's a long story, I guess, because I did it very gradually. So like the vast majority of Americans, I grew up eating meat all the time. Basically every lunch, every dinner, as a kid and as a young adult. I remember with my ex, the first question we'd always ask when we were thinking about dinner is, what meat are we having? So, you know, we both loved animals, or at least I thought I loved animals, but I'd think nothing of going and seeing, oh, look, there's a cute cow over there. Let's stop and look at it. And then going home and saying, oh, let's see, we have steaks and burgers and, you know, chicken and whatever in the freezer. You know, there was just that, I guess I was a poster child for cognitive dissonance where, you know, just did not think of it, did not occur to me. So it was a matter of a few seeds getting planted, I think. One of the first was in college, taking an ecology course. Had no impact whatsoever on my diet, but just becoming very environmentally aware,
Mm.
that created a lifelong interest in environment and looking at help supporting environmental protection groups and things like that. So I think it did plant that seed in the back of my mind. And then years went by, and at some point, I think I don't remember the exact order, but I think I saw a poster. It had a dog on sitting on a dinner plate, and it said the caption was something along the lines of "Why not? You eat other animals, don't you?"
Mm.
And that kind of really started me thinking a little more. Again, kind of in the background, and I decided I think not really consciously, but I decided I was going to get away from at least eating mammals. And then when I met my wife after divorce and meeting my wife a year or so later, she was mostly vegetarian when we met. She ate a little bit of fish, but she had been vegetarian for a long time, and that kind of opened my eyes a little bit too. So at some point after we were together for a few years, I had pretty much given up red meat. I decided I was going to give up poultry. And I remember going to a restaurant with my wife and a couple friends, and one of my friends said something along the line. I ordered some dish, and I said, "Hold the chicken." And he said something along the lines of, "Oh, I wonder how long that's going to last." Well,
Mm.
it's been 20 something years now that I haven't had poultry. So probably about 2003, I had pretty much given up shellfish as well. I That was like the last thing. And I do remember the very last time I had, maybe 2002 or so, the very last time I did have poultry was Thanksgiving with my parents and eating some turkey and just saying, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. This
Mm.
just isn't something for me. So all these little seeds getting planted got me in 2003 or thereabouts to go vegetarian. I wasn't your typical vegetarian because I never liked dairy or eggs.
Mm.
So there were really only about, let's see, there were things like pizza. Pizza, I always ate pizza. Once or twice a week, I would go out for pizza. Lasagna, big ziti. Um, what else? Yeah, ice cream. Ice cream was another big one. And then, baked goods, something that incidentally had eggs or dairy. And I never liked eggs. I remember when I was a kid, my father would make French toast sometimes. And if there was a chunk of egg on the side of it, I would peel it off. I wouldn't eat the chunk of egg. I just never would eat plain eggs. I never liked milk unless it was chocolate milk. So I really, in retrospect, if I had known a little better, I should have gone vegan years earlier. But it wasn't until about 2010 that I finally went vegan. Maybe about a year earlier, at work, they had a pizza lunch. And I was sitting there eating a couple slices of pizza, and I was just thinking, this isn't doing it for me. I don't,
Mm.
why am I doing this? Why am I eating pizza with cheese? And it was hard because, like I was saying, I used to go out, once or twice a week for pizza at lunch, and then giving up that and my ice cream. But I gave up the only thing for about a year or so that I would do is if someone came to my desk at work and said, "Oh, I just made these fresh cookies." So of course 99% of the time they were not vegan. So it took me maybe close to a year or so before I finally said, "You know what, thank you, but no." And so now it's been what, this 2026, so about 16 years now that I've been completely vegan.
Nice. That's amazing. And I think a really relatable story because I think once we hit the point where we're vegan, we love the idea of thinking that other people will go vegan overnight. We'll teach them what we know, and because we spent all that time learning, we can just give it to them and they'll do it faster. But humans don't always work that way. Some do. Some will do it
Yes,
overnight,
yes.
and good for them. That's wonderful and amazing, and we are thankful for those people. But a lot of people will find themselves kind of along that path very similar to yours. And to
Mhm.
know that it's normal to have these things come up and learn stuff and then maybe not make a choice that when we look back we go, why didn't we make that choice, like you had said about, like, why hadn't I just gone vegan? I didn't even like these
Mhm.
things.
Right,
um
right.
but there is a social aspect too that I think can hold people back even when they're having that strong reaction to when they're learning about like why people go vegan and what's actually happening to the animals, to the environment, to our own health even. And they have that strong reaction, but then they think about, well, what if somebody offers me a cookie? Now I have to tell them no? Like that's uncomfortable. Why would I do that? And I think this, so thank you for this, will segue us nicely into the work that you do, because the work that you do gives people an opportunity to be in community, to connect with others who have been where they are, who can answer that question of, what do I do if I have to say no and be in this weird moment with someone who, like, I wouldn't have otherwise said this to. Right. Yeah. So let's talk about NJveg, your organization. Give us all of the details. How did it start? Why did you start it?
Okay, so there's a lot of information to give. Let's start with why I started it. So back when I met my wife again, being almost completely vegetarian, she'll mention to me, "Oh, I went vegetarian first," and I say, "Yes, but I went vegan first." So we had that one
burn.
But she belonged to an organization called the Central Jersey Vegetarian Group, which despite since like the mid to late 90s, so despite the name, it was basically a vegan group. And I remember going with her shortly after we met to a vegan potluck, and that was not, I forgot to mention that was another one of those seeds that got planted, as being exposed to that, finding out that, hey, there's all this food here that I've never tried before. Instead of cutting my diet down, it basically expanded it. My diet is much more varied now than it was 20 something years ago. So this group, I started getting involved with them after a few years. I remember having a meeting and we started a website. This was about 2003, maybe. And I remember having all kinds of information on there. I was putting information about any restaurant that was vegan, vegetarian friendly. This is before Happy Cow. And as a matter of fact, wound up years later giving Happy Cow the database that I had created.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the New Jersey listings originally came from us. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But being exposed to that and participating more heavily in that group, was something that made me think this is great to have this kind of community. We didn't do much other than social events. It was basically a lot of potlucks, a lot of restaurant outings, things like that, picnics. Then in a while later, we moved to South Jersey. We live in northern Burlington County now, and found out that there was a Vegetarian Society of South Jersey, and I joined with them and got more involved. I wound up being the vice president of operations. I did a lot of the organizing for them. And about 2000, I guess it was 2018, we had a split. Two reasons. One was vegetarian versus vegan. I definitely wanted vegan. The president did not. And also the Central Jersey Vegetarian Group, by that time, the woman who was running it was having health issues. She was getting older, and she really wasn't doing much anymore. And I had asked her about taking over the mailing list and maybe trying to form a statewide group. The South Jersey group wasn't interested, so I just said, you know what, I'm just going to strike out on my own and form this vegan statewide, New Jersey statewide group called NJveg. And it was very specifically veg, not vegan, because, as I'm sure you know, and many listeners know, there's still a stigma in many areas about the V word. So it left things open. And also, one of the philosophies we have is that you don't have to be vegan to participate. You don't have to be vegetarian. And in matter of fact, we do have a paying membership that supports. We're a all volunteer nonprofit, so paying membership supports a lot of our programs. And we have some members who aren't even vegetarian, so they just want to support what we do, supporting the animals, support eating healthier, etc. So anyway, 2018, I formed NJveg, made us a formal 501c3 nonprofit with the state and the IRS, and started with the Central Jersey mailing list that we had. A few other people, it was very slow starting, but then just I put a lot of time into it. It was almost like a second job.
Hmm.
And we started. I had to recruit a board of trustees for New Jersey requires that, and some other volunteers, and we started creating different events. One of the first things we did 2018, or maybe no, it was 2019. One of the first big things we did was Goats of Anarchy. We did a couple volunteer days there. We started doing educational outreach, which basically at an event, and usually not a vegan event, something like a street fair, we have an information table. So we have a lot of free information. We answer questions. The information is pamphlets and brochures that a lot of that we get donated or we purchase from organizations like PETA, PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Vegetarian Resource Group, etc. And we have dozens of different pieces of literature. We also have, mostly for the younger people, but sometimes older people, stickers. A lot of people love stickers, put on their water bottle, their laptop. We have coloring books for kids. We have refrigerator magnets with our logo and more. So we have all this free information, and our philosophy is to take a gentle approach where we just let people approach us. We inquire about if they're interested in going vegan or plant-based, and we don't push. The mantra I've been using for a while now is every meal you don't eat meat is a life saved. So you don't have to be perfect. If you're going to do just once in a while, if you do something a little more formal, like, hey, meat-free Mondays, you might transition kind of like I did. So there are all kinds of ways. I've talked to literally thousands of people over the past 8 years with NJveg coming to our tables. And everybody, you mentioned people watching a documentary or reading a book and going vegan overnight. The majority of people don't, I've found.
Right.
And they do it for all different reasons. They do it for health, a lot of older people, especially, or younger people with health issues. They do it for animals. Younger people are more focused on the environment. And then you get some very strange reasons why people go vegan. But we welcome everybody. We don't pressure people. We tell people that, hey, you might try, you might find that it's too difficult for now. So, try to do it at your own pace. If you're not perfect, if you want to go vegan and you found that, oh, I've been eating this thing and I didn't realize it had dairy in it, don't beat yourself up. It's no big deal. You can always try to improve. And again, do it at your own pace. And the biggest reward that I've had is at least a couple times where somebody has come to our table and said something along the lines of, I was at your table last year and now I'm vegan. And that just really gets you in the heart that you just made this difference.
Yeah.
So that's one of our main. I don't think there's a lot of organizations that do what we do with the outreach. So that we try to do over 20 a year. And for everybody listening, we definitely need volunteers. We try to do these all over the state. We have a bunch on our calendar now. So njveg.org, little plug. You can go on there and look at our calendar and future events. There's a listing of outreach that we either have planned or we're trying to get going if we get enough volunteers. And we're also always interested, if somebody knows, I live in South Jersey. If somebody knows something, say, I don't know, Bergen County, for example, a good place for us to do outreach that I don't know about, we'd definitely be interested. So second big thing that we do is the one that got you to NJveg is the Sanctuary Volunteer Workdays. So it's mostly, but not exclusively, farm animal sanctuaries. And I'll bet, just a little quiz, how, everybody can think about this as they're listening. How many vegan animal sanctuaries do you think there are in New Jersey? Years ago, I probably would have said, I could probably count on one hand. Well, The answer is I don't know, but there are over 20 in New Jersey alone. I was
That's
shocked to
amazing.
find, I keep finding out about every year or so, I find out about a new one.
Hmm.
Some of them are micro sanctuaries that just have a couple handfuls of animals. Some have hundreds, like Goats of Anarchy has several hundred. Um, it's just amazing that all these farm animals are being cared for. They're living out their lives. Unfortunately, some of them don't have very long lives because they've been bred in ways that they don't live long. One thing that I just read again recently that I think it's 6 weeks is the average lifespan of a broiler chicken.
Mm.
It's just horrifying.
Yeah.
So when these chickens are rescued and brought to a sanctuary, they're lucky to live a year or two because they're a lot of them are pretty much too heavy to for
Right.
their legs to support. They're bred to have huge chicken breasts that you can have, and so we've done some other sanctuaries that not exclusively, like I said, farm animals. But we try to do ones that are at least vegan run. Obviously, if you have cats, it's not going to be a completely vegan
Mm.
sanctuary, but it's run by vegans.
Yeah.
And again, with these, we do these outreaches mostly between spring and fall. Volunteer work days are year round. So we'll
Oh,
be out
nice.
there in summer. We try to avoid over 90 degrees, and we'll be out there in the winter. We try to avoid, 35 and below. But we also try to do about 20 or so of the volunteer work days every year. So those are two of the biggest things that we do as far as advocacy. The other one would be speakers. So we have which library was it? The East Brunswick Library actually contacted us a couple years ago and asked us if we would do a speaker program, and I
Nice.
said absolutely. I had a little bit of experience. I had done a couple speak. I had done speaking with Sierra Club on an environmental topic. I had done a synagogue group had asked me to come. Somebody had been at the Sierra Club and asked me to do one, so I did one with them, and then I did one on environment, health, and ethical for North Jersey Mensa. So I got
Oh,
a few
nice.
very challenging questions from
I
them.
bet.
But for the library, I figured that it would be good to have a few speakers. So a young woman had reached out to us, a new vegan, which was great to have somebody with that perspective. And another member of ours who he went to, I forget which vegan health program. He had gotten a certification from them. So he was mostly speaking on health. The woman was speaking more on her transition to going vegan, which was inspired by a potbelly pig um, that she and her now fiance had adopted when they weren't vegan at all.
Hmm.
So, and then I speak mostly on the environment and throw in a little bit on the ethical side. So we've now done that at a number of different libraries. And we have, I think, two hopefully coming up in the next couple months, and maybe more.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. So, yeah, you are busy and your group is
Yes.
busy spreading the word and caring for the animals. And I love that it's so varied, and also something that I know that your group does that you didn't mention is that social piece. You do
Yes.
hikes and then you have lunch together.
Mhm.
Tell me about that. Where do you guys go to do this?
So similarly with that, so that's the reason for the social aspect is first of all the other groups were doing it, and also for example. During COVID, initially I was afraid to go anywhere. And then after a few months, I just said, you know what, with a mask on, I was going to go out and go on a hike. And I
Mhm.
just thought, you know what, why don't I just invite, put it up on NJveg and say we're going to do a hike with masks on because we didn't know any better at that point.
Mhm.
And we started doing them, and we're now up to 127 or so, something like that.
Wow.
For the last 6 years, it's been mask free, but but we a lot of people have told me when they meet me, when they reach out to NJveg for any of our members that, I don't know very many or any other vegans,
Yeah.
or I'm interested and I just need some more community support. It's hard doing it on my own. So having that social aspect is very big as well. So we do a number of things that you mentioned, the hike. So we do a hike and a walk, usually about twice a month. And again, all over New Jersey, we've been trying not to repeat. So
Mm,
out of the 127, we've probably done 110 or so different
wow.
parks or trails. And I have a big list. Part of the thing I've been doing is researching, all the different county, state, local parks, preserves, everything else. Where we have a hike of, say, or a walk. It could be a paved trail walk. It could be the longest hike we did was, I think, about 11 miles flat.
Oh,
The most difficult was Delaware Water Gap. We did about a 6 mile, somewhat strenuous hike, very rocky.
mm,
So the whole range. And what I like to do is ask people to recommend something that they want to do, that they're familiar with. Yeah, and we ask, does it have a parking area for a bunch of cars? Because the last thing you want to do is you have people drive an hour or more, and you get there and there's five parking
yeah.
spaces full. What do you do? So so we do these year round again, and again, same with the volunteer days. We try to avoid the extreme temperatures, the
Hmm.
rain, the snow, the icy grounds. If there's ice or snow on the ground, we try to avoid that. This year has been particularly challenging for all of our events, with first a bad winter and then a hot summer, but
Yeah.
we're still getting those in. Um, we also do potlucks about once a month.
Mm,
So vegan potlucks, sometimes they're picnics, sometimes they're in a public location. Um, if somebody runs a recreation group, for example, we did one in Florence in northern Burlington County. One of our members, a couple, the guy is on the recreation committee for the town and was able to get us to use the facility for free.
nice.
So, and then also at people's houses. That's pretty much the only thing we do that we require people to be members, if it's at a private home.
Mm,
Just,
that makes
people might
sense.
feel more comfortable that it's not just somebody randomly coming.
Right.
We don't publicize the address.
Yeah.
But almost everything else we do is open to anybody, open to the public. We sometimes have discounts for things if you are a member, but typically we'll try to do potlucks about once a month. The restaurant trips is another thing we do. So a lot of times we combine hiking or walking and dining. So we'll go out to eat
Nice.
or after the walk or hike. But sometimes we'll do it just especially, like I say, a weeknight. We have a couple coming up, for example, one in Burlington County, one in Monmouth County, where we're just going to do a weeknight, going to a local place and having a meetup to have a
Mm,
dinner. Or we have a brunch coming up in next month,
ooh.
for example. So all kinds of different social events like that. The other thing we've done, not recently, because we haven't been able to get the facilities to accommodate us, is a catered gourmet vegan meal.
Oh, that'd
So
be
we
nice.
we had done a series of 5-course ones at the restaurant Lady in the Shallot when they were in the
Mm,
Trenton Farmers Market. They moved to a new location. It's much smaller, so they haven't been able to have 40 to 50 people. They only have about 16 seats, so that won't
mm,
work for them. But hopefully someday we'll find some way to do that. We have also done it at the Burlington County College, which is now Rowan College at Burlington County. They have a culinary arts center in Mount Holly, and we 12 semesters. We had at the student run restaurant they have once a week. The students make food during the semester. We had them for the last number of semesters up till about a year or two ago do a vegan meal.
nice.
And students would make a vegan meal, for us. The chef supervisor, of course, would come up with the recipes and train them while they were doing it, and would give out a vegan cookbook as a nice little reward to the students. They haven't they haven't been up for doing it the last year or two, but hopefully either they or another culinary school um, would be willing to do that with us again. So we're
Yeah.
looking.
That sounds amazing. Another thing I'm thinking about as you're talking about the social piece and being able to be with people and just do something socially, who understand where you are, why you do the things you do, the choices you make, like kind of how we live our lives, right? We as vegans understand each other, and like the rest of the world doesn't always get it. So to be in that space and not even necessarily doing something vegan, like, you know, nobody would describe hiking as a vegan activity. It's just an activity that non-vegans do as well. But it reminded me, I was at an event years and years and years ago in New York City, and I was newly vegan, and I was like, I didn't know where I was in relation to like the vegetarian or vegan restaurants that I'd known about. And I happened to notice someone else in the event wearing a hoodie that said I'm losing the quote. It's like, I will not be a graveyard for murdered bodies or something like that. I can't remember. I'll put the direct quote in the show notes. But I was like, well, this person's got to know. And so I like, you know, I tapped them on the shoulder and I was like, hey, I noticed your hoodie. I'm looking for a place to have lunch. Like, can you tell me what vegan places are around here? And he reached into his bag and he pulled out a menu, but like, he didn't even say like hi or anything. He just handed me a takeout menu for a place that thankfully was like the next block over, and just turned around. And I was like, and I know that, you know, that's something that a lot of non-vegans are afraid of. They're afraid of asking a vegan questions, or can you direct me somewhere? And like, I told the person I was vegan, and I was like, this is how we treat each other. And I was just like, I can still, like, I'm replaying it in my head. I can still see it happening. That stuff really sticks with you. And so to have a space where you know that when you show up, people are wanting to hang out with you. You know, people that go to the NJveg events know, like, this is a hangout. We're spending time together. We're doing a thing. This is a group thing. And so you go into it already open to meeting a new person, having a new conversation, you know, answering questions should a non-vegan show up in the space and ask questions. So they're obviously curious. I can't imagine you get a lot of trolls, as they say online, right? Showing up to events just to be mean to you because they don't like vegans.
Every once in a while at outreach, because it's a public thing where people are walking by, you know, get somebody walking, I like my meat, or something, you know, like, okay, thank you.
So clever.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, hardly anybody ever comes. I don't know if we've ever had anybody come to one of our hikes and start trolling us. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I really love the work that you're doing, and that you have put together this group, because you really are touching so many areas that people need support. And, you know, sometimes it's not just people, but you're supporting the animals by volunteering. But that also helps the people, because it gives those people who are working at the sanctuary an opportunity maybe to work on something else, you know, and to maybe bring in more money, or have the ability to rescue someone else. And so it is really meaningful.
Sometimes we've had, you know, when we've done a volunteer day, somebody becomes a regular volunteer at that sanctuary because they got exposed to that sanctuary, fell in love with it. And they said, you know what, I can come every Saturday, or once a month, I can come and do this. So yeah, it definitely gives the opportunity for the sanctuaries to benefit, you know, in many ways.
Yeah. I love it. So what do you have going on? So this episode, we're recording it, you know, mid-July, but it'll go out probably early August. So looking ahead at your calendar, what types of things do you have scheduled? And you can be specific if it's on the calendar, it's happening, you can put that out there so that people can hear about it and hopefully sign up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can always go to our website, njveg.org, and if you click on event calendar, you'll see that's the official list of what's there. So in August, just going there because I can't keep track myself. We have a volunteer day on the 1st in South Jersey. We have a hike on the 2nd that we haven't scheduled a place yet. I'm actually hoping for a place in North Jersey, but again, not being in North Jersey, it's where I'm hoping for somebody to reach out and say, hey, why don't you do one by me? August 8th, we're going to be at the Phoenixville, Pennsylvania Veg Fest.
Oh,
So
nice.
I was there last year just as a regular participant, and it's a huge event, free admission.
Yeah.
So I figured, hey, I want to go back. Let me try to recruit a couple volunteers. We'll have a table. So we're doing that. We have speakers at a over 55 community that one of our members' father lives at. So it's going to be focusing on environment and health. Is what they asked for. We're going to actually do a cooking demo as well, besides speaking.
Cool.
We have outreach at the West Windsor Farmers Market near Princeton on August 22nd. And then August 30th, just signed up for it today, as a matter of fact, is I think that's how you pronounce it, Lokai Rose. It's an exotic animal rescue up in West Milford, way up northern Passaic County. They're having a fundraising festival, and we're going to have a table there.
Okay.
So, going with we'll cover everywhere in the state. We've had events in every county in New Jersey, all 21. And, so we try to spread things around. So those are, we actually have about 3 open days on the calendar in August, which will have another hike, maybe a potluck, and maybe another volunteer day. So usually we book at least a month or 2 in advance, but I've been trying to leave a few open with the way the weather's been, because we've had so many postponements. It's good to have, that extra availability. But again, except for the potlucks in people's houses, everybody is welcome to join. We definitely need volunteers. So we sometimes struggle. We've been struggling recently to get volunteers for our outreach and some of the volunteer work days. Some of them we've been doing well at. The one that you did, Kimberly, at Goats of Anarchy, we had a full house of people. But sometimes we struggle to get just a few people to come. So very rarely do we have to turn people away from those, and that's only if the sanctuary has a strict limit. With our outreach, we never turn people away. And, if you're not ready to do outreach to speak to people, come out for an hour to help us set up, or come out at the end of the day and help us pack up. You don't have to talk to anybody. That's how I actually started with a different group. Is I just said, I don't know, I'm not ready to talk to people. I'll just, I set up, I kind of hung out and then help pack up at the end of the day, or just hang out. I mean, again, you don't have to come to a social event to hang out with us. You can come to outreach and say, hey, can I just hang out at your table for a while? Absolutely. Please do. We have one thing, take a few minutes of your time, is we have a Name the Pulses game. So pulses are beans, chickpeas, lentils, things like that. And we have a dozen of them, and you just match the sample with, write the number and for which one's which, and we give a little prize. So a lot of times people who aren't even vegan will stop by our table and check that out.
Yeah.
So we're on Meetup. So some people find us through Meetup. We're on social media. So we have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. We're on Instagram. We're at VegNJ on Instagram, not NJveg. We have a Pinterest set of boards. We have TikTok. We haven't been too active there yet, but hopefully get a little more active on TikTok. So it's another thing. If you want to volunteer, anybody listening, and you're shy, or you can't get out, you have mobility issues, or no car, or whatever the case is, a lot of things you can do behind the scenes. You can help us with our website. You can help us organize things. Contact volunteers, etc. We have all kinds of things. We we welcome everybody. And you don't have to be vegan. We definitely have volunteers who are not even vegetarian.
Yeah, that's really cool. The exposure that they get is wonderful.
Mhm.
I was going to ask, and so you answered somewhat for people listening who are not local.
Mhm.
So they might be able to help with that behind the scenes stuff as well. But do you ever do any events online?
During COVID, we did some online meetups. We would definitely consider it if somebody comes up with, a good thing for us to do online.
Hmm.
Certainly that would be something that we could do, say, on a weeknight. So we really haven't done much, but definitely open to it.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that's really cool. Yeah, I love, I feel like since COVID, so many of us gravitate to, is there an online option? How can I just be online? Because then I can just be home and, but there is something very magical about being in a physical space with people. And whether you're, doing an activity or just having a conversation, there is something very precious about that too.
Yep. If you want to volunteer, we can find something for you to do at home.
I love it. Yeah. So, yes, volunteer, those who are listening, whether you're local or not, reach out to Steve and find out how you can
Right.
help.
And I'll throw in our email is njveg.org at gmail. .com.
Nice.
So
Very easy. And don't worry, all of the links for all of your social medias, your email, everything, your website will be in the show notes. So everybody will be able to find you wherever it is that they prefer to be.
cool.
Yeah. Well, Steve, this has been wonderful. Did we miss anything that you want to make sure people know about you or NJveg?
Um, I think we covered pretty much everything major about NJveg. We talked about my vegan journey. NJveg is now my full-time job. I retired about 2 years ago.
Nice.
So I literally spend probably a full-time, 40-ish hours a week, either in person or organizing things behind the scenes. Um, it's a labor of love. It's like what's the saying that if you have a job that you love, it's not really work or something
Hmm.
along those lines.
Yeah.
So this is something that my regular job that I had, that was a living. It was not
Hmm.
fun. This is fun. It gets a little tough sometimes, but it's something that I just love doing. Just seeing how many animals have been helped either directly by at sanctuaries or indirectly by not eating them,
Hmm.
by doing our outreach and educating people. It's just so rewarding. And then helping people with their health sometimes. We're not medical professionals, although we do have a few nurses and dietitians and whatnot that have been involved with us. So sometimes we have that as well. And then the third pillar, I guess you can call it, is the environment. Is just seeing indirectly again the benefits from what I'm doing, from what the other volunteers are doing. And a final shout out to our board of trustees for the work they do, and our volunteers. We've had so many great volunteers over the years, continue to have, and then finally, just people who come to our events, just people who are members who support us, who even the ones who don't come to events, who just support us with that small donation every year to help us buy the literature or
Mm.
get that space at a festival or whatever the case may be. Just we appreciate everybody who comes, everybody who supports us in every way.
I love that. I do actually have one more question I want to ask you
Sure.
before the final question. So you mentioned earlier about how when sometimes someone comes up to you and they're like, "Oh, I met you last year and now I'm vegan," and how much that
Yes.
warms your heart and how good that feels. So I wonder, with all of the volunteer work that you've done at various farmed animal sanctuaries, and things like that, do you have a moment or a specific animal where when you met them, or a moment at a sanctuary where you just it just stood out, or it just tugged at your heart in a different way, or that you didn't expect?
Wow. There've been so many. I guess I would just have to go back to, probably, some of the first experiences I had. I had never had any, much of any direct exposure to farm animals other than seeing them driving down the road, or occasionally, unfortunately, at a petting zoo, maybe. Um, I'm just the one that's coming to mind. The first time I was exposed to many animals was, again, Goats of Anarchy, where just going there and seeing all these goats and all the special needs goats that they have,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool. They have a lot of goats that might be missing limbs or have other issues where they have prostheses, if I pronounce that correctly. They have little carts, etc. And they're blind goats. And they have other animals too, but just being there, and after we did an hour or two of work, just being able to hang out and pet these goats, that most of them are so loving. A few are a little scared, but some of them, they just love people. They're just so happy. The goat that's in a cart doesn't know any better. It's just so happy to be alive, to be around its friends, its other goats, its people to take care of it. And that always, just experiences like that. Just about every single sanctuary has similar experiences, but I think that was the first large one that I did, that has that. That initial just mind-opening experience to have that. It was just so wonderful.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I've visited multiple different farmed animal sanctuaries, but being there at Goats of Anarchy, like you said, with those special needs goats, and you're right, like there'll be a goat in a cart who's just zipping by,
Yeah.
they're just running over to the other side
Yeah.
of the grass to meet their friend, sitting in like little kiddie pools with hay and
Right, right.
oh my goodness. Yeah, it really is incredible to see these animals just get to be who they are.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's
Actually
so
live
moving.
live a life, live a good
Yes.
life.
Yeah. Yeah, safe and loved, and being able to have and really, like, one of the, as we were on the tour after we volunteered,
Hmm.
we were, as we walked into like a little section, I remember the tour guide had said, this goat here, she's in charge, and she can be a little bitey, or something like that. And I I love that the approach to that is just watch your fingers. Don't
Yes.
put your sweater in her mouth, don't let her chew on your jeans. It's not that she needs to change. Like, she is who she is, and she gets to just be her. And we, as the humans, adjust how we show up and how we engage so that she can continue to be her full self.
Right.
And we just work around that. And it's something that I think a lot of non-vegans, and not passing judgment, I think it's just difficult to see that when you're so wrapped up in the idea that animals are commodities and things to be
Mhm.
used and eaten, and for us.
You
Yeah.
get to see that they're actually individuals. They all have
Right.
their own personalities. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone should visit a farmed animal sanctuary.
Absolutely. Whether you're even not even thinking about going vegan, just go.
Hmm.
You'll find so many things out about animals that your mind will be blown.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
How does hummus show up in your life?
I guess I can tell a little story with that too, right? So I've always been a fussy eater. And as a kid, I never liked chickpeas. I would
Mm.
avoid chickpeas. I'd take, pull them out of my soup or whatever. Turns out my wife didn't like chickpeas either, so we never got chickpeas. But then it turned out that she didn't mind hummus. And I reluctantly tried hummus quite a few years ago and said, you know what, this is pretty good. I like this. And I remember being on a business trip years ago and went to an Indian restaurant. I accidentally ordered an appetizer that was pretty much, they brought a plate of chickpeas. And I just said, okay, I'm not going to turn this, I'm not going to just not eat it. So I said, I don't love them, but I kind of, they're not bad. So ever since then, I've been eating chickpeas, and I love hummus. It is definitely a go-to snack or dinner. I try to do it on the healthier side. So instead of eating with chips, I'll often get like a thin rice cake.
Okay.
And I'll eat it with something like that, or a corn cake. Whenever there's hummus at a potluck, which is almost every single potluck,
Yep.
I always make sure to get it. Sometimes there's some really good ones and different flavors and everything. So I buy hummus probably at least once a month at the store. So it's a good section of my diet right now.
Nice. I didn't even know what a chickpea was probably till I was in my 20s. I don't think I even encountered them as a child. I don't think we ever ate anything that had chickpeas in it.
Or garbanzo beans.
Yeah, not even by their other name. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, you discover hummus and the magic it brings to your life, and it's really nice. Steve, thank you so much for this conversation. I'm so glad that we got to spend this time together tonight.
Well, and thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about NJveg.
Of course. Thank you. Welcome back. By the way, the menu the guy in the hoodie gave me was for Terry. Sadly, all locations of Terry are now closed, but I do remember that despite how rude I thought the man was, I thoroughly enjoyed the food I got from there. To connect with Steve and his incredible organization, NJveg, visit his website, njveg.org. Follow on Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok at VegNJ, and on Facebook at NJveg. In the show notes, you will find these links, as well as links to their event calendar, mailing list, meetup, email, and even a phone number you can text for more information. I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're loving it, please give Did You Bring the Hummus a 5-star rating and leave a review. It's an easy way to keep supporting the show. Be sure to share these episodes with your friends. If you're finding something good here, they will too. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Did You Bring the Hummus, and visit my website, didyouBringTheHummus.com, for more information about me, updates on what I'm working on, new podcast episodes, and all things vegan. Tune in next time for my interview with Reverend Dina A. Miani Lauman, founder of The Wellbeing. Thanks for listening.